I'm Scott Waugh, Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost at UCLA and the Chair of the Board, and I'd like to get the meeting underway. Today, we have a very straightforward agenda, as you can see. Secretary's report, President's report, Treasurer's report, the nomination and election of the new Board of Directors, new members of the Board, and the CRL Primary Source Awards, and we'll get through that as we go along. Just to remind you about who the Board of Directors are: Janice Welburn, Dean of the University Libraries, Marquette University, Vice Chair of the Board of Directors; Tom Burrish, Provost at the University of Notre Dame, Secretary of the Board of Directors, and Chair of the Membership Committee; Shimo Wang from University of Cincinnati, Dean and University Librarian. He's the Treasurer of the Board of Directors and Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. Martha Ruska, Associate Librarian, University of California, San Diego, and she's Chair of the Collections and Services Policy Committee. The other members of the board are Susan Givens, University Librarian, Yale University; Jim Grossman, Executive Director, American Historical Association; Jim Hilton, University Librarian and Dean of Libraries at the University of Michigan; Susan Martin, Provost and Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the University of Tennessee; Ingrid Parent, University Librarian at the University of British Columbia; Lars Schultz, Professor of Political Science, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill; Virginia Steele, University of Librarian at UCLA; and Stephen Wheatley, Vice President of the American Council of Learned Societies. Bernie Riley is the President and Center of Research Libraries, and he's a member of the Executive Committee. I have a brief report today. I have to begin on a sad note to mark the passing of Richard Fife and Dan Hazen, two dedicated members of the board and dedicated members of CRL. They passed away this year recently, and we're very sorrowful for their passing. The theme of today's meeting is transparency. And operationally, for the Center of Research Libraries, transparency means collecting, archiving, preserving, and making accessible the precious resources that are of vital importance to and essential to the research in the humanities and social sciences. Humanities and social sciences depends upon access to these kinds of resources to make the advances that help us understand the world around us. And so the CRL, collecting and preserving and providing those resources, allows those researchers to do the work that they are trained to do. That research, in turn, opens to view, makes transparent, the workings of governments, societies, cultures, and economies around the world, past and present, and helps us understand the world in which we work and which we have to navigate. Today, you will hear that CRL continues to operate with great fiscal prudence and husbanding of resources. It's a very efficient organization, well managed, and in that environment has built up very substantial reserves. And what we propose to do is to use those reserves over the next few years to undertake new investments in the primary functions of CRL and of benefit to members in the area of digitization, document delivery, and enhanced internet presence. We want to make CRL a go-to site for researchers around the world and in the United States, and make it as functional as possible. In the years to come, CRL proposes to collaborate with funders and institutions around the world to help develop its core mission, as well as to develop global partnerships that will enable it to undertake its core mission. They also want to continue efforts to expand the membership and diversify revenues. Recognizing that the world of libraries is changing rapidly and the world of higher education is changing, CRL has to be nimble and innovative in order to find ways of making sure that its function and its mission continues on well into the future and is well funded. Finally, we want to continue to improve service to members, make the organization as efficient as possible, and reduce costs, and make sure that the mission that we have and that it is enjoyed by so many people continues in a way that is efficient and readily available to the public.